The Detroit Lions may be facing one of their most delicate defensive moments this season. After an encouraging start, with the team showing strength against opposing offenses, the team now faces a worrying situation in its secondary. Two of the team's key cornerbacks suffered injuries in the last game against the Cleveland Browns, and this could force the franchise to make drastic decisions. Terrion Arnold and DJ Reed left the field before the final whistle, and while Arnold's situation seems less serious, Reed's is generating concern among fans, coaching staff, and even NFL analysts. What is happening to this previously solid defense? Are the Lions about to face a drop in performance just when they can't afford to lose momentum? Stay with me until the end, because in addition to explaining in detail the impact of these injuries, I'll also tell you about a potential trade that could completely change the course of the season in Detroit. Arnold suffered a shoulder injury during the game. The good news is that Coach Dan Campbell, in an interview immediately after the game, made it clear that he doesn't expect the young player to be out for a long time. Even so, Arnold was already going through a difficult adjustment period, struggling early in the season, and the plan was to reduce his playing time to alleviate the pressure. Now, that plan may have to be postponed. But the real concern is DJ Reed. The 28-year-old cornerback, recently signed to bolster the secondary after the departure of Carlton Davis, left the field with a hamstring problem, and early signs are not encouraging. According to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, Reed's move to the injured list is considered a real possibility, which would automatically rule him out for at least 4 games. For a team that dreams big and relies on defensive stability, losing Reed for so long could be a huge blow. It's worth remembering that Reed arrived with immediate starting status, receiving a 3-year contract worth $48 million, exactly the same type of deal Carlton Davis got with the New England Patriots. He had been performing well on the field, being a key player on the perimeter and posting solid numbers in the early rounds, including a crucial interception that nearly ended in a touchdown against Joe Flacco. This play, in fact, demonstrated his importance to the defense. Beyond his experience, Reed was making an immediate impact, something the Lions were looking for to solidify their secondary. Now, with the threat of losing him for weeks, Detroit will have to scramble to avoid leaving the area exposed. And here begins the domino effect that worries Dan Campbell and the entire defensive staff. If Reed is placed on injured reserve, the team will have to reorganize its defensive line. Amik Robertson, who was being prepared to play more in the slot, may be forced to assume a perimeter role, playing opposite Arnold. That is, of course, if Arnold can actually stay on the field in the coming weeks. Otherwise, names like Khalil Dorsey and Rock Ya-Sin will start to gain ground. But it's undeniable that the technical difference is significant. The truth is, in such a tight NFC season, losing a starter like DJ Reed can be costly in decisive games. And it doesn't stop there. The problem isn't just losing Reed, but the strain it creates on the rest of the defensive unit. Campbell's initial plan was to reduce pressure on Arnold, give the rookie more time to adapt, and allow Robertson to shine in the slot, where he's most effective. Now, that plan may have to be abandoned. An improvisation into this point, which is something players don't want to do in the middle of the season.
And this is where the story begins to take on even more interesting twists. According to insider Aaron Wilson of KPRC2 in Houston, the Lions may not simply expect Reed to return in 4 or 5 weeks. There's a very strong name emerging behind the scenes, and that name is Riq Woolen, cornerback for the Seattle Seahawks. For those who follow the NFL, Woolen needs no introduction. Named a Pro Bowler in 2022, with 6 interceptions and impactful plays that placed him among the league's best, Woolen quickly established himself as one of the standouts in Seattle's secondary. However, things have changed. A series of injuries and a drop in performance in 2024 have called his position on the team into question. And now, in 2025, he's emerging as a potential trade target. But why would Woolen be appealing to the Lions? First, because of his rare combination of speed, range, and aggressiveness. He's the kind of cornerback capable of neutralizing tall, physical receivers, as well as possessing the ability to change the course of a game with a single play. And let's face it, For a team that dreams of competing at the top of the NFC, having a playmaker like Woolen could be the difference between merely competing or actually contending for the Super Bowl. Furthermore, Woolen is still on a rookie contract, meaning the salary cap hit for Detroit would be minimal this year. For a team that has already invested heavily elsewhere, securing a reinforcement of this caliber without compromising the cap could be the perfect move. Of course, there are risks. Woolen is coming off seasons where instability and injuries have significantly hampered the team. Some analysts even raise the question, does the Woolen we saw in 2022 still exist, or was that just a glimpse of a promising start? The truth is, even with the questions, the possibility of acquiring such a talent at a reduced price could be irresistible to Lions general manager Brad Holmes. Sources already indicate that Seattle would be willing to listen to offers, especially if they include draft picks or defensive rotation players. And it's in this type of movement that we see who is truly willing to take the next step toward a title. What's striking is how this trade would make sense on several levels. Detroit would not only fill the void left by Reed, but also create a secondary rotation that could be one of the strongest in the league once everyone is healthy. Imagine Reed returning after 4 or 5 weeks, Arnold finally adjusting to the speed of the NFL, Robertson remaining in the slot, and on top of all that, Woolen arriving to raise the par. We're talking about a defense that could handle any explosive offense in the league without having to retreat. And in such a competitive NFC, this could be exactly what the Lions need to finally break the playoff barrier. Now, the big question is, what would the price be? Woolen still has a market, and even at a low price, he's unlikely to come cheap. Seattle isn't desperate to offload him, but at the same time, it no longer seems to consider him untouchable. A second-round pick might be enough to spark conversations, and then the question arises, would you, a Lions fan, be willing to pay that price? Remember, Detroit has been quite strategic in the draft, but at the same time, it's already proven it's not afraid to be aggressive when it believes a piece can make the difference. And that's precisely what excites me about this potential trade. We're talking about a team that already has a solid foundation, an explosive offense led by Jared Goff, and an offensive line among the best in the league. The defense had been the positive surprise of the season, but with the injuries, it's become clear that the roster still lacks depth at some key positions. Woolen may not be the magic solution, but he's the kind of player who transforms a defense's identity. And let's face it, who wouldn't want to see Woolen wearing the blue and silver of the Lions, playing in front of a packed Ford Field while the crowd goes wild with every interception? Now I want to hear from you. If you were Brad Holmes, would you take the risk and bring Rick Woolen to Detroit even with the doubts about his fitness? Or would you wait for Reed to recover and stick to the initial plan? Leave your opinion in the comments, because this is a debate that will divide fans greatly. And of course, please leave a like if you believe the Lions can truly take this next step and become serious Super Bowl contenders.